It's honestly been a long time coming. It's been 2 years since season 2 ended. Let's go back when the season was airing during the pandemic. So I would like to go over ReZero season 2 that covers over Arc 4, the Everlasting Contract. Once again, we shall tackle this section first, characters. Cause, oh boy, unlike season 1 that really was mostly prime focus for Subaru, we definitely had other characters have their shining moments. And, well, have their specific arcs. But let's start with our boy Subaru, cause oh man, he still goes through one hell of a development. Considering that the season does start off with the loss of Rem, he takes this hit the most because it's a scenario that he himself cannot undo, meaning that he has to go forward with one person having been lost, technically. So, throughout the first core of this season, we see him using his life as a tool to guarantee everyone's safety, as, well, we learn more about him, how he's insecure and really feels inferior to his father, having been a spitting image of him. Something that I think most of us can relate to. And man, oh man, when he's cornered, feels so real, his desperation and him trying to do everything on his own. But we do get another person, Satella, basically get him out of this mindset, as well as Otto Suin, get him to finally get some help, ask for help. As Otto would put it,
now putting on an act for a girl that you care about is fine. And you can do the same thing with a girl who likes you too. Nobody would disagree. But that is it. That's as far as it goes. Deep down you know that you're just not good enough. You know you can't reach, don't you? You want to impress that girl you like, don't you? And be someone the girl who likes you can be proud of now, don't you? Then why? Why don't you ever try and accept help from someone? Someone who's truly your friend.
For the last loop, Subaru being a badass is just pure gold. He took on Garfield, he kissed Emilia after they're arguing, confronted Roswell, and saving Beatrice from her own depression. Now, he's not the only one. Emilia got some shine over the second half of the season, having lost Puck and arguing with Subaru pushed her to be the best version of herself, since this was the key for her managing to beat the trials, help save the people of Harlem and Sanctuary, as well as taking on the Great Rabbit on her own, and also disciplining Roswell for being a knucklehead. Hell, she's the key to saving the Sanctuary, quite literally the key to win. So she leveled up from last season. Otto Suin is a treat. Although briefly having appeared in season 1 second core, season 2 he plays the guide and friend to Subaru, being the one to help him out of his deadlock situation with Roswell, as well as being the one who had saved them from his depression, both in a failed loop and the successful loop. Despite being picked on, he can be a badass on his own. This was shown during the battle with Garfield, as he managed to show that on his own he's pretty capable. To a degree, but capable. Now for Ram. Ram is quite the most unique one out of the group, only because due to her having no memory of Rem, it does change a slight bit of her priorities. Considering her priorities in season 1 is her sister and Roswell, this one is mainly turned all the way to Roswell thanks to what Gluttony had done to Rem. As well as seeing some cool action scenes, it's interesting that she has, as most of us in the community would see it, Stockholm Syndrome. So that's something interesting with Ram. Now Garfield Tinsel serves as basically the Arc 2 Rem of this arc. Basically the whole season. Being against Subaru and, well, an obstacle until being won over and fighting for Subaru's sake once he was able to overcome his past. What's interesting is Garfield wasn't initially an enemy of Subaru until the second loop of this season. Or I guess third loop if we want to count the first death being a loop. We also get to see some badass moments of him whenever he's fighting. He's a capable fighter despite being probably the youngest of the group. Hell, he took on Elsa. Elsa, one of the most craziest fucking characters. Speaking of crazy characters, we have Roswell, such a mysterious character that has an odd, twisted way of wanting to help Subaru, as well as obviously serving as this arc's antagonist. He definitely has a lot of interesting things going for him, as well as being what I would say the counter to Subaru's Return by Death ability. The book that basically tells Roswell what's coming next. Lastly, we have Echidna, probably one of the most sim characters next to Rem, but besides the point, she's an interesting specimen, an intelligent character, one that radiates knowledge, but also very threatening when you start unpeeling what it is she's after. She is an ally to Subaru, no doubt about that, but also an antagonist, as she has her motives and wants to use Subaru for her own gain. Hell, she has a crazy-ass speech that conveys her love, but in all reality, it is basically just her wanting to use Natsuki Subaru for her own usage. Overall, these characters and all the other characters, such as Frederica, Petra, Meili, who are all, despite being not as frequent, do play an important role for the story, as this season is a very character-driven focused story. It's interesting seeing how dynamic and how unique each arc goes with the individual characters. So in the character department, it is a 10 out of 10 for sure. The story for here, as I said, is a more character-focused arc, with the first course serving as the walls of the characters that they have to overcome. Subaru having to overcome him using his life as, well, a tool, rather than actually trying to save his life as well as the others. Emilia suffering from the trials and overcoming her past. Garfield being an obstacle to basically overcome, as well as him having something, hiding something that causes him to be tied up to the place. And we have Ram and her loyalties, whether or not she will follow Roswell's crazy-ass plan to kill everyone, or will she come to her senses. It basically shows what are the things that every character needs to overcome, with Beatrice as being the most prevalent out of all of this, since she is the character that is possibly deserves her own section. But overall, the story is phenomenal. We definitely have character moments, we have action, although you could say that Season 1's action is just way more smoother in terms of animations. I believe the music and voice acting, as well as somewhat of how it looks, is pretty damn good. So for story purposes, and how this is basically just one entire long-ass arc into one season, and how well it was done, definitely another 10 out of 10. There's a reason why I'm putting Beatrice as her own section. I believe putting her in the character section wouldn't do her justice, because out of all of the biggest themes of this, it definitely has to do with the contracts. This entire season has been setting up in regards to Beatrice's arc. Her trying to stay faithful to the contract that she made with Mother, being the Echidna from the past. And her trying to find that person that can set her free. Now, there aren't too many hints in Season 1 about this, but you do get the sense that Beatrice is doing this for a reason. She's in that library for a reason. And once we learn from Echidna why, and how that task was basically fruitless from the start, and Beatrice took the most extreme point to where she wants to die now for being stuck there for 400 years. Yes, she has one of the most damn well biggest arcs of this, considering it's called the Everlasting Contract. Because Beatrice is trapped in this. She's trapped in her own solitude, isolated from everything, because she wants to be faithful to this contract. Since contracts, promises in this world are regarded as something high. Overall, yes, I think Beatrice probably is one of the highlights of the season. Seeing her in many loops, just sad, depressed, is a parallel to what Natsuki Subaru feels. He is alone and a bit depressed. He's isolated because his return by death ability does isolate him. And having these two form a contract by the end of this, with Subaru just being honest, not trying to be the grand hero that most anime protagonists would be. No, he's just being him, Natsuki Subaru, and laying out a hand. Beatrice is a capable fighter. She can defend herself. She's smart. But she needs someone that could basically support her. That is Subaru's role, to support Beatrice. Has allies, has friends, siblings, as they do act like siblings at times. So having this little section for Beatrice, she deserves her own section. Hell, a full video if I'm being honest. But for sure, she probably stands out as one of the best characters in this season. Back with the Return by Death section, because I would like to make note that in Season 1, it has been used as a tool that something goes wrong, Subaru must solve this problem, and Return by Death keeps him from ever being trapped by the thing that is known as death. Now, it is a tool that is useful, but this season kind of shows us that this tool is not a blessing, but a curse. As it is a blessing in the sense that if he had perma-died, then yes, every event that happened here would be kind of fucked, especially in this season. But it doesn't help him in the long run. A scenario for this is Subaru is basically trapped in the sanctuary. His dead set is right after he took the trial, the first one. And every time he comes back, Garfield is constantly being distrusting him because of the miasma that comes off of him. This is a similar point to Rem distrusting Subaru in Arc 2, but to a grander scale, as Subaru cannot afford any time to just try to replay every event because Garfield will change it. It is impossible to have everything play out exactly the same. And that's the problem with Return by Death. It is useful, but that means that Subaru has knowledge of things he shouldn't, making him even more suspicious. As well as Satella clarifying that he was given Return by Death so he can be saved, but the tool should not have been used as something that he basically throws away his life to save others. As Satella would put it,
"Listen, don't fret all alone. Fight alongside the ones who care about you. Rely on each other. Never forget that it's those people and others you've affected who will grieve when you die."
I'll remember.
something unique of this section compared to last season is the trials. Due to how important these trials are, let's go over them in order of who passed them. With trial 1, you must confront your past. For this one, I will say Subaru definitely had it somewhat easy compared to Garfield and Emilia, with Garfield being second and Emilia being third in difficulty range. Subaru, this trial 1 basically allows us to understand Natsuki Subaru, understand his home life, his family, and some of the specific types of girls he likes from manga/anime. We see that his parents care for him deeply, how they did had a normal life, and yet you still see that Subaru has to come to terms at this point that he might never see his family again, his parents, because there is no possible way for him to get back. So this was the chance for him to basically come to terms with it, as well as say a proper goodbye to them, which is honestly wholesome for a show like this. Garfield's trial is almost similar to Subaru's, getting over the past, but his is more unique in the sense that before he took the first trial and he failed, considering he caused him to kind of go nuts. And this time though, it's more implied that he understands what's being said and now gets a better grasp that his mother hadn't abandoned him because she wanted a happy life. She abandoned her children, or more or less, she was willing to come back after she found Garfield's dad. And yeah, the unfortunate situation happened, but it allowed Garfield to finally open his eyes and realize that he did love his mother and his mother did love him. So it was another wholesome scene for a show like this. Now, Emilia's is warranted to be long because hers was probably the hardest to overcome. Not only were her memories tampered with by the Witch of Vainglory, Pandora, but the whole situation there is insane. We do see about the elves. We see the witch cultists back then when they weren't crazy fucking nut jobs. As well as we get to see a non-crazy Betelgeuse and Emilia's Aunt Fortuna. But we also encounter two major antagonists that will be for the future. One that we've encountered that faced Rem, the Sin Archbishop of Greed, Regulus Corneas, and as I said, the Witch of Vainglory, Pandora. These two are very unique for this because it shows us just how much of a threat Subaru will eventually have to deal with, as well as the rest of the Emilia camp. Now, the trial does end with Emilia realizing that the events that had happened was Betelgeuse accidentally killed Fortuna, he went insane, she lost her goddamn mind after having refused to open the door for Pandora because it would have broken a promise, and basically just kind of going on a meltdown. But the fact of the matter is that this is a foreshadowing of events that the Emilia camp will have to overcome. Trial 2. Behold an unthinkable present. If we were to say that Emilia and Subaru had this the reverse, it'd be one hell of an understatement. Subaru has the worst fucking trial and out of the second trial, considering that only two took this trial, him and Emilia. The thing with Subaru's is, it's basically a goddamn nightmare. He has to see all of the realities after his death, at least the ones that they wanted to show to us. And yeah, it kind of almost mind-fucked him, because how much do you have to see everyone mourn for your own death so many times, as well as how fucked each timeline is without him? Yeah, there's somewhere things don't all end up bad, at least in the most part, until you really think about what happens after that. It's just painful for Subaru. As for Emilia, yes, she has it easy. It's basically the reverse for these two from Trial 1 and 2. The big thing is that Emilia denied this reality and accepted the one that she has. The point of the trial is you either accept or deny this reality. And seeing a more peaceful Emilia, Fortuna, and Betelgeuse, it's just neat seeing the alternative of what could have happened, how things could have been better. But life must go on, and one must accept how things have gone, and you have to move forward. That is what the second trial kind of implies. Now for the third trial, a disaster yet to come. This one is up for speculation and its own video needed, especially at this point considering how far we've gone in Arc 7. But the thing with this trial is that it is showing us of events that are most likely going to happen. Will everything that each one character had said will happen? Maybe, but it is up to speculation at this point, especially the Emilia hating someone. But overall, the trials are phenomenal. Considering that they won't be appearing until the very end, we might as well go over them one at a time. Echidna, Witch of Greed. Considering she acts very friendly at first, you slowly see that she is just playing a facade, a character, and that she really doesn't understand human emotions, since hell, Subaru had to lecture her that she had to be angry when something went wrong. Or, well, him rejecting her, basically. Though, what's also interesting is that, despite not really understanding feelings, she does possess the ability to hate on Emilia and Satella. Typhon, Witch of Pride. Nothing much to say about this little lolly menace, except that her ability is honestly fucking scary, especially how she uses the ability and how she thinks. Minerva, the Witch of Wrath. Having a cute tsundere that can't really kill you has, well, wrath feels odd. On the one hand, it makes sense, like her powers and her rage and how it's all connected. But on the other hand, Wrath feels more like a destructive ability. Overall, one thing we will say is she is the MVP, considering she prevented Greed If from happening. Daphne, the Witch of Gluttony. Interesting how she's a big threat, considering she's tied up and can't even be looked at in the eyes unless you want to lose your damn mind. She's rather a fascinating witch in the sense that her mindset is very animal-like, to put it blunt. Sekhmet, the Witch of Sloth. Not much to say as well with her, other than showing just how slothful she is. She doesn't get up for majority of her scenes until maybe the last 2 or 3 that she appears in. Carmilla, Witch of Lust. Honestly, a shy witch, cute one as well, until you think on the fact that her ability basically can get you killed, considering that it makes you look at the person you care about, and the closer you get to the Witch of Lust, the more your heart will eventually just stop and it'll kill you. Satella, Witch of Envy. What can I say? Looks like Emilia, sounds like Emilia, acts a little like Emilia. Honestly, anyway, she's just very mysterious. Good thing to see that she's a good person. At least that side, the Satella side, not the batshit crazy envy side. As a whole, the witches are all unique in their own ways, and how their abilities and representative sins are taken in an interesting spin. Cut content. I've gone over this last season, so we'll go over this again this season. I do want to make a note is that the difference between this season and last season is Arc 4 in the web novel is extremely different to the light novel, as they have a lot more differences, as well as how ridiculously long the web novel is. So we'll only go with the light novel changes, as that is probably the much easier route. I'll probably make a video related to light novel versus web novel, but that'll be a while. Anyway, let's go over cut content. Number 1, the Sage stuff, with Daphne basically kind of saying that Subaru should know as a Sage candidate. That is not a big stuff, but it's something to take note of. Otto using magic on Garfield during their fight. I mean, as I said, I think the battle between Otto versus Garfield before Ram's inclusion, I think it's fine on its own. He just throws a bunch of explosive stuff. It would be cool to have him use basically magic on him, only for it to not do shit. That'd be funny. We have the discussion between Satella and the Witch of Envy. I think this one should have been kept in, since Satella and the Witch of Envy are kind of two entities of their own, sharing one body. Split personality disorder, am I right? Think Doc and O'Malley from Red vs. Blue. That's kind of the same with Satella and Witch of Envy. Let's just put it at that. Zombie Elsa. I can see why they didn't do it, but that's kind of a big oof, because it would have been cool having Subaru one last time confront the first person who got him killed. It would have been poetic. Then again, the way they ended Elsa in the anime wasn't bad either. And lastly, the Omega scene. This could be added as something mysterious for season 3, maybe. But the thing is that having Omega be cut is kind of weird, because of how much of an implication this was on what happened to Ryuzu Shima. Then again, it's fine. I don't think it's a bad thing, because they ended it in a light note. I just think having Omega peer in at the very end as a post-credit scene would have been better, and would have possibly have the mystery going. Then again, the Who is Ren line wasn't added until the director's cut, and even then that was in season 2 episode 1, so I guess happy ending is okay. Overall, it's not as much, because obviously it's one arc compared to season 1 being 3 arcs. Some of them are fine, others I kind of wish they stayed in, but oh well. I believe overall this season is not only fantastic, but it's a great way of continuing the story with the Emilia camp, with Natsuki Subaru, seeing him constantly grow. He got over his self-loathing issues, but it wasn't a switch. It wasn't, okay, I now love myself now. No, he still has those issues. He still has issues like a normal human being would, but so does everyone else. And I like how by the end of it, their bond together was what helped them overcome this entire thing. As it started with the season with not only losing someone, but Subaru choosing to be on his own, wanting to solve everything alone. And by the end of it, it's Subaru and everyone else together breaking through the impossible obstacles that Roswell set in. This season has the best music, has some good visuals here and there, some weird visuals, but overall portrayed the everlasting contract arc faithfully.